welcome back, everyone. I am proud to report to you that this administration is taking the fight to criminals, and that fight includes arresting illegal aliens. All right, listen to this.
Since January, the Department of Homeland Security has arrested over 480,000 criminal illegal aliens. 70% of those individuals have criminal charges.
So 70% of them have criminal charges, either pending against them or they were convicted in the past of some other crime. Now, it's not just the illegal aliens they're going after. The FBI is hard at work. Finally, the FBI is going after real criminals, not just J6 grandparents who were taking an unorganized tour of the Capitol. Now they're going after bank robbers and fraudsters and terrorists and violent criminals and drug traffickers. Listen to this.
This is going to trip you out. 28,000 violent crime arrests in 2025, and the year's not even over. You say, oh, well, what does that mean? Put it in comparison. Prior 3-4 years, the FBI under prior leadership had averaged about 16,000. We're at 28,000. 28,000. We're not even done with the year. We haven't even hit Thanksgiving or Christmas yet.
All right, so let's expose the big lie in all of this. I want you to take a look at this graph. What it basically says is that in 2020, crime was sky high, and then from 2022 to 2024, under the Biden era, look at that drop. It dropped basically 48% decrease in violent crimes. But that is the FBI arrest records. Those are the reported crimes, okay? But when you look at the National Victims Survey, all right, this is the survey of Americans who actually believe they were victims of crime. Crime soars under Biden. Violent crime up 59%, rape up 67%, robbery up 38%, aggravated assault up 62%. The little gold lines, that's President Trump's first term, down in virtually every area. But this is the victimization survey, which means they talk to about 250-something thousand people, and they say, hey, were you a victim of crime? And those are the numbers that are through the roof. So this explains why people feel like crime is up when the media is telling them, no, crime is down. Well, how does this happen? I want to bring in now to talk about all of this, the president of the Crime Prevention Research Center, Dr. John, with us. John, it's great to have you back on the program.
It's great to talk to you, Grant. Thanks for having me on.
All right. So it seems counterintuitive that reported crimes would be down, but when you interview random folks and the number of people who say they've been a victim of a crime goes sky high through the roof, something's not jiving here.
Right. Well, I mean, so we have these two numbers. We have crimes reported to police and we have total crimes that are there. And prior to COVID, those numbers tended to go up and down together. Since COVID, they've gone in opposite directions. And there are several reasons for this. One is arrest rates have plummeted over the last few years. And if people don't think that the criminals are going to be caught and punished, they're less likely to go and take the time to go and report crimes to the police. The other thing is it's become relatively more difficult in many places to go and report crimes to the police. So 6-7 years ago, if you called up 911 and reported a violent crime, they would send out police to go and take the report from you. Now, in many parts of the country, if you call up 911, they'll say, well, is the criminal still there? And people almost always say no, they've already left. And in that case, what they'll say is, well, you can come down to the police station and you can wait in line and you can get a police report filled out. Well, you make it more difficult, more time consuming for people to go and fill out a police report. Some people are going to say it's not worth their time to be able to go and do that. So what we've had over the last few years is we've had this drop in the number of crimes reported by a little bit, but we've had this huge surge, this 59% increase over the last 4 years in terms of the actual total amount of crime. That's the largest percentage increase over any 4-year period that we've had by far than any 4-year period since they started collecting this data.
I guess I'll ask you a rhetorical question, John, but why does the media ignore the latter number you mentioned about crime up and seem to focus on these crimes reported number?
Well, as you say, it's a rhetorical question. It depends on what fits the narrative that's there. So, I mean, last year, several times, many times during the election, Trump would go and point to the national crime victimization data. We didn't have the data yet for 2024, but we had the data for the first 3 years of the Biden administration, and it was up a lot over that period of time. And yet, when Trump would go and make that, or I had a piece in the Wall Street Journal last year, did lots of radio and TV interviews about the first 3 years. The media just basically ignored it. And so, and you can find headline after headline last year where the media was saying violent crime is down, but people mistakenly think that it's increasing. The national crime victimization data has kind of been the gold standard for crime data because we know most crimes aren't reported to police. And we know you need to, if you go to ask most people, do you care about what's happening to the total amount of crime, or do you care about what's happening to the amount of crime that ends up getting reported to police? You may care about both, but people are primarily going to care about what happens to the total amount of crime.
Yeah, of course. Last question for you. I've seen in mostly blue cities, in their attempt to limit the violent crimes, they reclassify crimes. So what once was an aggravated assault now may be just a basic assault. And they've moved these crimes to lesser and lesser categories. Does that play a role in any of this?
Well, not directly. I mean, say I'll give you an example. You have something like Manhattan, where Alvin Bragg is the district attorney. They basically are refusing to prosecute violent criminals for firearms offenses. What makes the difference between an aggravated assault, which is a felony, and a simple assault, which is a misdemeanor and doesn't get included in the FBI data when you're making comparisons across cities, is whether or not a weapon was used, and often whether a weapon was used. Well, they're refusing to include that in the charges when they finally prosecute these individuals. The thing is, they put pressure on the police then not to include the weapons in their police reports because, they don't want to take the full hit for kind of downgrading the charges against people. They want the police to kind of pretend that there's nothing there. And of course, we've seen similar types of accusations from police in DC. The administration is investigating that. To me, the amazing thing is that you've had the number of police that you've had who have come forward and had sworn statements about the pressure that they have faced to downgrade the crimes when they put together their police reports.
Well, I think those cops that are coming forward are like all of us. They want the truth so they can respond to crime where it is in a legitimate fashion and know what the facts are as compared to this wishful thinking magic show of numbers, which seems to be the Biden administration and the mainstream media love to subscribe to. Dr. John Lott, all you do over at the Crime Prevention Research Center is not a magic show, dealing with facts and numbers, and it's very hard for people to dispute the findings that you come up with, which is why we have you on all the time. Thank you, sir, as always.
Well, thanks for being there, Grant.
Absolutely, we appreciate it. Again, we'll be following this because you got to go to sources you trust, because the mainstream media today, man, just not trustworthy.